The island of Rhodes was a special place in the ancient world. It sat in the bright blue waters of the Aegean Sea. This sea is part of the larger Mediterranean Sea. Rhodes was a busy island. It was known for its trade and its skilled sailors. Ships from many lands came to its harbors. They brought goods like wine, oil, and pottery. They also took away goods made in Rhodes. The people of Rhodes were clever. They knew how to build strong ships. They were also good at trading with other cities and countries far away. This made Rhodes a rich and important island for many, many years. The location of Rhodes was very important. It was like a bridge between different parts of the ancient world. To the east was Asia Minor, which is now modern Turkey. To the south was Egypt, a land of great wonders. To the west was Greece, with its famous cities like Athens and Sparta. Rhodes was right in the middle of these important places. This meant that many trading ships had to pass by or stop at Rhodes. The islanders used this to their advantage. They became experts at sea travel and commerce. Their harbors were always full of activity, with sailors and merchants coming and going, making the island a vibrant hub. Life on Rhodes was influenced by Greek culture. The people spoke Greek. They worshipped Greek gods and goddesses. Helios, the god of the sun, was especially important to them. They believed Helios watched over their island. He rode his golden chariot across the sky each day, bringing light and warmth. The Rhodians built temples to honor their gods. They also loved art and learning, like many other Greek cities. They valued their freedom and independence. They worked hard to protect their island from enemies who might want to control its wealth and its strategic position in the sea. The people of Rhodes were known for their bravery. They had to be brave. Living on an island meant that they sometimes faced dangers from the sea. Pirates were a threat. Other powerful cities might try to conquer them. So the Rhodians built strong walls around their main city. They also had a powerful navy to protect their shores and their trading ships. Their skill in warfare was respected throughout the ancient Mediterranean world. This strength and independence would soon be tested in a very big way, leading to the creation of one of history's most famous statues, a true testament to their spirit. Around the year 305 BC, a powerful ruler named Demetrius Poliorcetes decided to attack Rhodes. Demetrius was a famous general. His nickname Poliorcetes meant the besieger of cities. He came with a huge army and many ships. He also brought giant war machines. These machines were designed to break down city walls. Demetrius wanted to control Rhodes because it was rich and had a good harbor. The people of Rhodes knew this would be a very difficult fight. They were outnumbered by the large army that Demetrius brought with him, but they were determined to defend their homes and their freedom. The siege lasted for a whole year. Demetrius and his soldiers tried many times to break into the city of Rhodes. They used their tall siege towers. These towers could be moved close to the city walls. Soldiers could then climb up and try to get over the walls. The Rhodians fought back with great courage. They repaired their walls when they were damaged. They threw stones and burning oil at the enemy soldiers. They used their own clever tactics to stop the attackers. The women and children of Rhodes also helped. They brought food and water to the soldiers on the walls. Everyone on the island worked together to resist the powerful invader. One of Demetrius's most famous siege engines was a massive tower called the Helepolis. This name meant taker of cities. It was said to be over 100 feet tall and covered in iron plates to protect it from fire. It had many levels and carried catapults and other weapons. Moving this giant machine was a huge task. Despite its fearsome power, the Rhodians found ways to fight against it. They managed to flood the ground in front of the Helepolis, making it bog down in the mud. They also launched daring attacks to try and set it on fire. Their resistance was truly remarkable against such advanced military technology of the time. Finally, after a long and hard struggle, Demetrius gave up. He could not conquer Rhodes. He made a peace agreement with the Rhodians and sailed away. He left behind many of his siege engines and weapons. The people of Rhodes were overjoyed. They had saved their city. They had shown the world their bravery and their love for their island. This victory was a very important event in their history. They wanted to do something special to remember it. They also wanted to thank their patron god, Helios, for protecting them during the terrible siege and for helping them achieve this great success. After the great victory against Demetrius Poliorcetes, The people of Rhodes felt immense pride. They had faced a powerful enemy and had won. They believed their patron god Helios, the sun god, had helped them. Helios was a very important god for Rhodes. They saw him as their protector. He was the god who brought light and life to their island every day. So they decided to build a huge statue of Helios. This statue would be a thank you to the god. It would also be a symbol of their victory and their strength. It was a way to show the world how powerful and united Rhodes was. The Rhodians had a clever idea for funding this massive project. Demetrius had left behind all his expensive siege equipment when he retreated. There were many large war machines, weapons, and armor. This abandoned equipment was made of valuable materials like bronze and iron. The Rhodians decided to sell all of it. The money they got from selling these spoils of war was a very large sum. It was enough to pay for the construction of the giant statue they dreamed of. This was a smart way to turn the tools of their enemy's aggression into something that would celebrate their own freedom and resilience. The plan was to make the statue of Helios the biggest statue ever seen at that time. It would stand near the harbor of Rhodes. This was a very important location. Ships coming to Rhodes would see the giant statue from far away. It would welcome visitors and impress everyone who saw it. The statue would be a constant reminder of the Rhodian victory and their devotion to Helios. It was a statement of their power and their faith. The decision to build such a colossal monument was bold. It showed the ambition and confidence of the Rhodian people after their successful defense. This statue would not just be a religious offering, it would also be a powerful political statement. In the ancient world, large monuments often showed the wealth and power of a city. By building such an enormous statue, Rhodes was telling other Greek cities and foreign powers that it was a force to be reckoned with. It showed they were rich enough to fund such a project and skilled enough to build it. The statue was intended to inspire awe and respect. It was a way for Rhodes to mark its place on the world stage, not just as a trading hub, but as a victorious and resilient state. The huge task of designing and building the Colossus of Rhodes was given to a sculptor named Chares. Chares was from Lindos, one of the main cities on the island of Rhodes. He was a student of a very famous sculptor named Lysippos. Lysippos himself had made many impressive statues, including some of Alexander the Great. So Chares had learned from one of the best. He was known for his skill and his ability to work on a large scale. The people of Rhodes trusted him to create a statue that would be worthy of their god Helios and their great victory. This was the biggest project of his life. Chares had a grand vision for the statue of Helios. He planned for it to be incredibly tall, perhaps around 33 meters, or about 108 feet high. This would make it one of the tallest structures in the ancient world, similar in height to the later Statue of Liberty. He imagined Helios standing proud and strong. Some stories say the statue was naked, like many Greek statues of gods and heroes. Others suggest it might have worn a cloak. It was likely holding a torch or a spear and wearing a radiant crown like the rays of the sun on its head. Chares had to think carefully about every detail, from the god's expression to the way his body was posed. The project was incredibly ambitious and presented many new challenges. No one had ever built a bronze statue of this size before. Chares had to invent new methods and techniques. He had to figure out how to support such a heavy structure. He also needed to manage a large team of workers and craftsmen. It required careful planning and precise calculations. The amount of material needed was enormous. Chares was not just an artist, he had to be an engineer and a project manager too. His reputation and the pride of Rhodes rested on his ability to complete this monumental undertaking successfully. Sadly, there are stories that Chares faced many difficulties, and some even say he did not live to see the Colossus fully completed. One legend suggests that he made a miscalculation in the cost or the amount of materials, and this caused him great distress. Another story tells that after finding a small flaw in his work, or due to some other problem, he took his own life. We do not know if these stories are true. They might just be legends that grew up around such a famous and challenging project. What is certain is that his design was followed, and the amazing statue was eventually finished, a testament to his original vision. Section 5. Gathering the bronze materials for a giant. To build the giant statue of Helios, Chares and the Rhodians needed a lot of material. The main material for the outside of the statue was bronze. Bronze is a metal made by mixing copper and tin. It was a popular material for statues in ancient Greece because it was strong and could be melted and shaped. For a statue as big as the Colossus, they would need huge amounts of bronze. Remember, they sold the abandoned siege engines of Demetrius. Much of this equipment was made of bronze, so they melted down these captured weapons and machines. This was a symbolic act, turning instruments of war into a monument of peace and victory. Besides the bronze for the outer skin, the statue also needed an internal structure to support its immense weight and height. This inner framework was probably made of iron bars and stone blocks. Iron was a strong metal, good for making a sturdy skeleton. Stone blocks could be used to fill parts of the lower sections of the statue, like the feet and legs, to give it a solid and heavy base. This would help to keep the tall statue stable, especially in strong winds or during earthquakes, which were common in that region. The combination of a bronze exterior and an iron and stone interior was a clever engineering solution for such a colossal undertaking. Gathering all these materials was a huge job. Rhodes was a trading island, so it could import copper and tin if needed. But the sheer quantity required for the Colossus was exceptional. Workshops would have been set up near the construction site. Furnaces would have been built to melt the bronze. Blacksmiths would have worked to forge the iron bars for the framework. Stonemasons would have cut and shaped the stone blocks. It must have been a very busy place, full of noise and activity, with hundreds of workers involved in preparing the components for the giant statue. The logistics of sourcing, transporting and processing these materials were a significant challenge in themselves. The quality of the materials was also very important. The bronze needed to be of good quality to last for a long time and to look beautiful. The iron framework had to be strong enough to hold the statue up for many years. The Rhodians were investing a lot of money and effort into this project. They wanted the Colossus to be a lasting tribute to their god and their city. Therefore, they would have made sure to use the best available materials and the most skilled craftsmen. This attention to detail in the selection and preparation of materials was crucial for the success of building such an unprecedented monument. Section 6. Building upwards. The engineering marvel. The construction of the Colossus of Rhodes was an amazing feat of ancient engineering. It took about 12 years to complete, from roughly 292 BC to 280 BC. Chairs of Lindos, the sculptor, had to devise a clever way to build such a tall statue. He could not just carve it from a single block of stone, as it was made of bronze. Instead, it was likely built in sections, from the feet upwards. The outer skin was made of cast bronze plates. These plates were shaped and then attached to the internal iron and stone framework. This method allowed them to build it piece by piece, gradually reaching its full towering height. To reach the higher parts of the statue as it grew, the workers probably built a huge earthen ramp or mound around it. As each section of the statue was completed, they would pile more earth around it, making the ramp higher and wider. This ramp would have acted like scaffolding, allowing workers and materials to be brought up to the level they were working on. Imagine a small mountain of earth slowly rising around the statue. Once the Colossus was finished, this massive earthen ramp would have been gradually removed, slowly revealing the gleaming bronze figure of Helios from top to bottom. This was a common method for constructing large structures in ancient times. Casting the bronze plates themselves was a complex process. First, clay or plaster models of each part of Helios's body would have been made. Then, molds would be created from these models. Molten bronze was poured into these molds to create the individual plates. These plates then had to be carefully hammered, finished, and fitted together like a giant jigsaw puzzle. They were then fixed to the strong iron skeleton inside. This technique, known as hollow casting or the lost wax method on a grand scale, required great skill and precision from the metal workers and craftsmen involved in the project. The exact pose of the Colossus is a subject of much debate. Many old pictures show the statue standing with its legs spread wide across the entrance to the harbour, with ships sailing between its legs. However, most modern historians and engineers think this pose would have been impossible to build with the technology of the time. It would also have meant closing the harbour for many years during construction. It is more likely that the statue stood on one side of the harbour entrance, or perhaps further inland on a tall pedestal. Its feet were probably together, in a more stable and traditional pose for a large statue. Section 7. Challenges on the shore, facing difficulties. Building the Colossus was not an easy task. Chares and his team of workers faced many challenges along the way. One of the biggest challenges was simply the enormous size of the statue. Everything had to be bigger and stronger than ever before. Lifting heavy bronze plates and iron bars to great heights required a lot of manpower and clever lifting devices. They might have used cranes and pulleys, but even with these tools it was dangerous and difficult work. Accidents could happen, and the safety of the workers would have been a constant concern for the project leaders. Another major difficulty was ensuring the statue's stability. Rhodes is in an area where earthquakes can happen. A tall, relatively thin structure like the Colossus would be vulnerable to shaking. The internal iron framework and the stone filling in the lower parts were designed to make it strong and stable. The foundation upon which the statue stood also had to be incredibly solid. They likely chose a location with firm ground and may have dug deep to create a robust base, possibly using large marble blocks. Despite these efforts, the threat of earthquakes was a persistent worry for a monument built to last for centuries. The financial aspect of such a long and complex project could also have presented challenges. Although they had the money from selling Demetrius's siege equipment, large construction projects often cost more than initially planned. Keeping the project funded over 12 years, paying all the workers and buying all the materials would have required careful management of resources. If Chares did indeed miscalculate costs, as some legends suggest, this would have added significant pressure. The Rhodians were determined to see it through, but managing the budget for such an unprecedented undertaking would have been a constant task. Finally, there was the sheer novelty of the project. No one had ever attempted to build a bronze statue of this magnitude. Chares and his team were pioneers. They were learning and innovating as they went along. There were no instruction manuals or previous examples to follow for a statue of this scale. They had to solve engineering problems that had never been encountered before. This spirit of innovation and problem-solving is part of what made the Colossus such an achievement. Overcoming these numerous difficulties, from logistics to structural engineering, was a testament to their skill, perseverance, and dedication to honoring their god, Helios. Section 8, a beacon of power. The Colossus stands tall. When the Colossus of Rhodes was finally completed, around 280 BC, it must have been an incredible sight. Standing about 33 meters, 108 feet high, it towered over the city and its harbor. Made of gleaming bronze, it would have shone brightly in the Mediterranean sun. Imagine sailors approaching Rhodes by ship. The first thing they would see, even from miles away, would be this giant, shining figure of the sun god Helios. It was a welcoming beacon, but also a powerful symbol of the wealth, strength, and artistic skill of the people of Rhodes. It immediately declared the importance of the city. The Colossus quickly became famous throughout the ancient world. People traveled from far and wide just to see it. It was considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, alongside other amazing structures like the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. This list included the most magnificent and awe-inspiring constructions known to the ancient Greeks. Being included in this elite group showed just how impressive the Colossus was. It was not just a statue, it was a masterpiece of art and engineering, celebrated for its enormous size and beauty. Culturally, the Colossus represented the deep, religious devotion of the Rhodians to their patron god, Helios. It was a thank offering for his perceived protection during the Great Siege. Every day, as the sun rose, it would have first illuminated the statue of the sun god, reinforcing this connection. Politically, the statue was a clear statement of Rhodian independence and power. After successfully defending their city against a formidable enemy, the Colossus served as a permanent reminder of their victory and resilience. It warned potential future aggressors that Rhodes was a city not to be underestimated, capable of extraordinary feats. The statue also likely played a role in the economy of Rhodes. As a famous wonder, it would have attracted many visitors, or what we might call tourists today. These visitors would spend money in the city on accommodation, food and souvenirs, contributing to the island's prosperity. The harbour with the Colossus nearby would have been an even more impressive and memorable destination for merchants and travellers. The The statue, therefore, was more than just art or religion. It was an asset that enhanced Rhodes's prestige and its economic vitality on the bustling trade routes of the ancient Mediterranean. Section 9. The fall and lasting legend echoes through time. Sadly, the magnificent Colossus of Rhodes did not stand for very long. In 226 BC, only about 54 years after it was completed, a powerful earthquake struck the island of Rhodes. This devastating earthquake caused widespread destruction, and the mighty Colossus was one of its casualties. The great bronze statue broke at its knees and came crashing down. Imagine the shock and sorrow of the Rhodian people to see their beloved monument, their symbol of strength and divine protection, lying in ruins. It must have been a terrible blow to their pride and their sense of security. For many centuries, the enormous broken pieces of the Colossus lay where they had fallen. Even in ruins, they were still incredibly impressive. Many people still traveled to Rhodes to see the remains of the giant statue. The Roman writer Pliny the Elder, who lived a few centuries later, wrote about seeing the pieces. He said that few men could even wrap their arms around the statue's fallen thumb, and its fingers were larger than most ordinary statues. This gives us an idea of just how massive the Colossus truly was, even when it was no longer standing. The Rhodians, it is said, were advised by an oracle not to rebuild it, so the pieces remained. The story of the Colossus did not end with its fall. Its fame lived on. The memory of this giant statue, one of the seven wonders, continued to capture the imagination of people for generations. The word colossal, meaning extremely large, comes from the name of this statue, so every time we use that word, we are remembering the great statue of Helios. Artists and writers through the ages have been inspired by the Colossus. They have drawn pictures and written stories about it, often imagining it straddling the harbour entrance, even though that is probably not how it really looked. Its legend became bigger than the reality. Even today, the Colossus of Rhodes is remembered as a symbol of human ambition and incredible achievement in the ancient world. Although no part of the original statue survives, its legacy endures. It reminds us of the skill of ancient engineers and artists. It speaks of a city's determination to celebrate its freedom and honor its gods. There have even been modern proposals to try and rebuild the Colossus, or a new version of it, in Rhodes. Whether or not this ever happens, the story of the original Colossus will continue to inspire awe and wonder, a true testament to a fallen giant that still casts a long shadow over history.